Hello, it's Debbie Gilbert here from the Business Awards show, and I'm also the founder of the Best Business Women Awards. And today I'm very excited to be interviewing Alec Jones, who is the founder of the Great British Expos and the founder of the Great British Business Awards, and also runs the Thames Valley and Southwest Business Awards as well, so two other award programs, and is also a founder of SME Today, which is a magazine aimed at entrepreneurs and small business owners. So welcome, Alec. Oh my goodness, what a lot of things that you do. And on top of that, you have a charity as well called Cherishers.
Thank you very much. I think
Oh,
when I first met you, I think we were doing the show in Windsor, weren't we? Back
yes. Oh
many,
my
many,
God,
many,
years
many
ago.
years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
We first set up in Windsor, and I perhaps wasn't as grey or as old as I look now because we've launched all of them since then. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, but yeah, it's been an incredible journey.
You have had an incredible journey. So you obviously came from a marketing background all those years ago.
Hmm.
So what inspired you to set up the Expos first of all?
Really, I mean, we as I say, I ran a marketing agency for somebody else. I worked with Alison, who's now my business partner, and really, we kind of was making a lot of money for somebody else, and perhaps we didn't. It wasn't really aligned to what we really wanted to do. So Alison kept saying to me, Alec, why don't you grow it for yourself, and why don't we go into business together? So she really is the first person to encourage me to do that. At the time, the thought of taking on not having a salary each month and not having that regular income, and the big step to becoming an entrepreneur was very, very daunting. But we did it, and we launched our first show back in Windsor, and there really wasn't many regional expos around 12 years ago. So really, we were kind of one of the first people to launch it in those areas. And we just wanted to give the business community an opportunity to genuinely network, but also not just come into an area, doing a show and moving on. We wanted to build community, wanted to give back, and really develop roots in the areas that we were in.
Yeah, so you did that, and it's really successful because I've exhibited a number of times. I've been a visitor. They're amazing events, and we will put the details of your events into the show notes and also links if you're watching this on YouTube. So from that spawned the idea of Cherishers, and then you were kind of searching around looking for a way to raise money to get that off the ground. So talk me through that
Yeah.
process and how
Yeah.
the awards evolved.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we did the first show in Windsor, as you know, and then people kept saying, "Oh, can you bring a show to Swindon? Can you bring a show to Birmingham?" And the next thing we know, we're in 7 locations around the UK, and it was just, my goodness me, we were doing we went from getting like 1,000 people at Windsor to like 12,000 people throughout the year. So it was that in itself was an incredible journey. But myself, I had quite a troubled childhood. I had parents who were addicts, and I was really helped, through Julie, who's also a director of Great British Expos. Outside of this, she's also got her own charity, and she's also got her own youth project. So I was one of the people that benefited from her youth work and growing up. So when it came back to when we became successful, we're thinking, how could we really help other people and how could we give back? And one of the ways that we did that was by thinking we could not only give money, but we could also help obviously set this charity up, which is Cherishers, which helps people that have been ex-abuse addicts, ex-abuse victims, and rehabilitates them and put them back into meaningful employment. Because one thing we found, Debbie, was these people who had these perhaps criminal backgrounds, had been in prison, had been addicts, they couldn't just walk into a job. People wouldn't touch them. So we really wanted to give them a route back into employment. So we set the awards up to use the profits from the awards as seed funding to fund Cherishers and make it sustainable and really to give back. And Cherishers is just growing from strength to strength. It's now got 30 employees. It helps over 700 families a week. It's just it's an animal of itself now. Yeah.
How exciting. And where is Cherishers based?
The Cherish's based in the Midlands,
Okay.
just outside of Lichfield. It's now got, we went from having one little shop to having 3 shops that we've knocked together, and it's 3 stories in the middle of our town centre. So yeah, it's constantly grown and grown and grown. And, it's really good to see all the activities that it's doing. And we've branched out from just providing employment to people. We now do lunch clubs, and we do, befriending, care in the community, loads of stuff it does.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So obviously this is the Business Awards show. So I'm keen to talk to you about your awards. having been a finalist this year myself for Female Entrepreneur of the Year. I was so excited.
Yeah.
So I came along to Reading and we had an amazing evening back in April. So talk me through like where the awards began and your ethos around your awards and how they're judged, and let's just share all the intricacies of your awards.
So really with the awards, we were seeing so many businesses coming both as exhibitors and as visitors. By the time we launched the awards, we were probably getting 6,000 visitors to the shows, because we were doing about, I think, four expos at that point, and we were getting about 400-500 exhibitors. And you know, some of these businesses were so deserving. You know, and some of the people, you heard the story about how they went from startup to now they're turned over their first million. And you know, we kept saying, why haven't you entered award ceremonies? And one of the things that we found was, back in the day, was people would enter and it'd really be led by the sponsors. If they had sponsored, you know, a huge whack of money, they would normally be on the judging panel, and they would also then be picking their clients, basically. So we wanted to give an award ceremony that was completely independent of Alison, me, Julie, independent of our sponsors, had an independent panel of judges that actually decided winners on merit, not based upon how much they've paid to enter or how much tickets they bought or how much, whether their friends sponsoring. So that's what we really set up to do. So, you know, even now, Debbie, people still think I sit in the judging room and I have an influence on who wins.
Oh, Alec, I have the same problem. Everyone thinks that you know, we have an influence over it. And of course we don't. And it's refreshing to know that you're on the same page as me, because I have sat at award ceremonies and thought, how has that judge and that sponsor just won an award? And why is that? And then maybe they did win on merit. I'm not saying they didn't, but I don't allow sponsors and judges to enter my awards. I just don't. It's you either enter or you sponsor or you judge. You can't.
There's a conflict there, and as you say,
of course there is.
People sit there and they think, oh, you know, they think it's a fix, and it's not. And so we purposely were never involved in the judging. Obviously the judges give us their feedback, and we actually read through their top three, and we read through the judges' comments and notes to actually see that it is obviously these people are credible that have been won. And quite often, you know, I've had friends that have entered, I've met friends in business, and it's very awkward because they, you know, and I have to say, no influence.
Oh, I have had the same thing. And sometimes people drop my name apparently into entries. The judges tell me this, and I think they think it's going to help, and it really isn't going to make any difference whether you know me or you don't. But I've had the same thing, and I think one of my most embarrassing things was there was a number of entries from a networking group I belonged to, and 7 of them didn't get shortlisted. And I thought, I'm going to be blackballed now. No one's going to want to talk to me. But what actually came out of it was people were like, oh, well, we actually know this is genuine, and you know that you don't shortlist everybody. Because some awards do, I think, maybe shortlist a lot of people. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
We took a lot out. The only reason being is some of the nominations, and if you're the same, we get in. Not enough detail, you know.
No,
as much as we say to people, you know, detail is king. The judges are really looking at this. So, you know, if they don't get through the shortlisting stage, it's just simply because there's not been enough detail. And really, when you're comparing it against some of the people that have been shortlisted, that's the reason why. So yeah, I mean, it's very hard. I mean, we've gone from the Thames Valley in the Southwest getting thousands of nominations, and the going through the whole process can be quite a laborious process. But you know, and we often give people feedback as well. So people say, well, why haven't I been shortlisted? We refer them to the judges. Or if people say, why haven't I been a finalist, or why I wasn't a winner? We've had that before. And I say, it's nothing to do with me. You need to get the feedback from the judges, and they'll give you constructive feedback if that's what you want. And re-enter next year.
It's good. It's such a good, I mean, I think that's what a credible awards company is about, really. You know, I'm doing all my reviews for people for next week, because I think that sometimes people just don't put the right things in. They don't really understand what they should and shouldn't be putting into the entry, or they don't read the questions properly. Or we did have quite a funny one this year. This lady obviously had copied and pasted something off her website, and it obviously stuck in the entry. So every single question was the same. And it was something that she'd copied off her website.
I
So
mean,
just read
um,
your entry before you submit it.
the biggest thing for us as well is, I don't know if about you, Debbie, but even when we get to shortlist, if you haven't put financials in there and you're
Yeah.
entering the business of the year or new startup of the year or SME of the year, that is one of the key things that people just don't do. How can the judges decide whether you should be the business of the year when they don't even know if you're making a profit or if if you're running at a loss, or or how you've scaled up? So I think that's one of the biggest things really that people just fail on, is actually their financials. They don't submit them.
Yeah, I totally feel your pain, basically. So how do you go about deciding what sort of categories to have? I mean, do you change them every year, or are they the same ones, or what
And
do
they're the
you do?
same, they are the same ones. With COVID, we haven't got that anymore, but the COVID Community Champion.
Mm,
We've just introduced, I think 2 years ago, Innovator of the Year, because we're
mhm,
seeing there's a lot of innovation in the areas. And I think COVID caused many people to innovate, and think about doing business differently. And we've just launched this year, Solo Entrepreneur of the Year as well. We
it's
were
a good one.
requested, I think perhaps the person who would request it. And
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah, and I think it was really good as well, because that's another thing we found.
Yeah.
When you've got female entrepreneur of the year, it was a good point that the person made. You've got a female entrepreneur that may be turning over a couple of million and got
Mm,
30 employees and really scaled up, but then you've got a lady that's perhaps just started up in business. So
mm,
it's really difficult when they're going up against
mm,
of these more experienced nominations. So I think
mm.
solo entrepreneur, we're really, really looking forward to seeing the nominations we get from that this year, but we don't really change it around too much because
No.
it's quite generic, the categories that
Mm.
we have.
Yeah, they are. I mean, we bought the solopreneur category in this year, which obviously the lovely Fiona
Yeah,
Scott, who I know works closely with your awards as well, sponsored. And it was for that reason, really, that one of our judges, David Bell, had suggested it last year, because he said, the trouble is you've got like bigger, exactly what you said, bigger companies up against people who have been maybe trading for 10 years, but they don't have staff
yeah.
because they don't need it, but they're actually trading really well and they're a really nice, strong business. So I think it's good to recognize that a lot of people do work on their own, but it doesn't make their business any less successful than somebody that's got
No, no, no.
30 staff,
And it's really hard as well, because when you're looking at entrepreneur of the year, you're looking at what entrepreneurial skills have they had, what
Mm,
demonstrated. And really, when we pick the winners, I'm sure it's the same for yourself, they're the flag, they're the kind of they're the flag bearer for the awards. So
mm,
they're actually saying this is the standard that we want everybody to kind of aspire to, what they've done. So we've had before where we've had a huge organization that's probably turning over 100 million, and they
mm,
tick all the boxes, but then when we go on to Glassdoor and places like that, and we look at perhaps some of the reviews, we
mm.
realize perhaps the culture's not there. So,
Yeah.
so there is other things as well. I mean, what we do, we encourage our judges to do, is to go into Companies House, go into TripAdvisor.
Mm.
They don't just take on face value what you're reading on the
No,
nomination,
you
because
can't.
again, anybody could put anything on a
Yeah.
nomination. You have got to investigate and really look at it.
Yeah, and I think the digital footprint is so important for whatever business you're running, is to
Yeah.
make sure you've got those all important recommendations online. So yeah, that can trip people up sometimes
The other
when
thing, I don't know if you've had this, but I've also had in the past, Debbie, I've actually had anonymous employees email as well. They've noticed that their business has been nominated maybe for Employer of the Year or SME of the Year, and then they've actually then wrote in and said, actually, this has happened, or this is the culture, or
gosh, no, I haven't
yeah,
had that.
yeah, we've had that as well. So the thing I always say to people, be very cautious as well if you're putting yourself forward,
Yeah.
because people, if it's not legitimate, what you're claiming, you can get bad publicity as well.
Yeah, it's true. No, I haven't had that one. I've had people complain when they don't win.
Yeah.
That's generally
Uh,
what we get every year. Why
I,
didn't
d-
I
I don't
win?
even I don't even go down. I normally stay at the hotel where the awards are, and I stopped going down for breakfast the next day for that very reason, because
Oh.
I just thought I don't want to be seeing people disappointed. Because as you say, I think if you enter an award, you've got to be prepared that you may not win.
Yeah.
And you've got to be, and I think if you go to it with that mindset and think, well, actually, what could we have done differently? Can we get constructive criticism off the judges? You've got to have that kind of mentality that even though you've been shortlisted, even though you may be a finalist, it doesn't guarantee you're going to win.
No, of course it doesn't. And at the end of the day, your business still could be really, really good. It's just that you're up against somebody else that's edged you in a certain area for whatever reason, or they've done something particularly spectacular. I was sort of cajoled into entering by Hella, who actually ended up being shortlisted for Best Networker, because I said to her, look, you should really be entering this. I think it's really good for you. And she said, well, I'll enter if you'll enter. So I said, oh, I don't think I would get female entrepreneur of the year. And she said, well, just you do it and I'll do it, and let's see what happens. And of course we both got shortlisted, which was lovely, because we had a great time on the night, and we really made the most of it. And for me, I was a finalist at the FSB Awards last year, and for me, I make the most of being a finalist by connecting up with people and chatting to the people on our table that night, at the awards. I never buy a whole table at awards, and the reason I don't do that is because then I'm going to meet maybe half a dozen people I don't know, which is always great.
I think sometimes for some businesses, it's good for them if they want to take all the team out and do a team. If it's employer of the year and you want to take all the team out, celebrate the fact you obviously the team's been there, and it could be their Christmas party for the year. I think that's really good. But it's a great opportunity to network. I mean, I think the category that you're in, the female entrepreneur, if I remember, it was really stiff competition, and one thing that I always publish now is the amount of entries we've had per category. So for example, if you've had, like, I don't know, 200 entries in for female entrepreneur of the year, and if you've been shortlisted out of those, that in itself is an incredible achievement.
Well, my certificate is in a frame and it's over there on the bookcase. I was very chuffed because I'd won quite a few awards for, like, my networking company, and I'd won an entrepreneur award about, I don't know, 5 years ago. So I hadn't really done anything recently, and I did the FSB last year. Didn't win, but I got finalist, so again was quite happy with that. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to do anything this year, I'll do yours. So I was sort of, as I said, a bit pushed into it by Helen, but I'm glad I did it. And it was just a nice experience all round, and it's always nice for me to go to someone else's awards,
I'm sure,
rather than my own.
I mean, the other thing that we found as well with the judges, there is kind of a change as well. I don't know if you found this, but the judges are really looking for CSR. They're looking for give back. They're looking for how you're making a difference. So again, sometimes that has also been a catalyst. They could have a really successful, commercially minded nomination, but then they could have somebody that's equally as good, but they're also giving back to the community. They're also leveling up and all that kind of stuff, and that sometimes could actually swing it for the nomination as well, because they actually want to see how they're impacting the community. So I do really encourage people, and sometimes people don't put enough on there about the give back and what they do.
And I agree with that. We've actually got a question in our awards now that requires people to share what they're doing, and I think that's one of the key things that people, they might be doing stuff but they forget to put it in, or they're just not doing. If you're running a business, you can give back. You can. It is possible. No matter how busy we are, there are ways of helping others.
There is. I mean, when we first started out in Windsor, we didn't have any cash to give businesses, but we wanted to give back. So we ring-fenced 10% of our stands, and we gave them to local charities that couldn't afford to be there. So
that's good.
It's not always about giving cash or giving time. Sometimes it could just be, what can you trade? What could you give to a business, to a charity? So we can all do something to give back. And I think by encouraging that in the nominations, it's also encouraging those aspirational nominees and businesses to think, actually, we need to be giving back.
Totally. Have you entered awards yourself, by the way?
I haven't, but I have recently been entered by one of our friends. Denise has entered us for Cherishers for the Stevie Award, and I've been told that we are a finalist. So that
that's a global award.
Global. Yeah, it's being held in New York next month.
Are you going?
We're debating whether we're going.
Oh, Alex, you got to go. What's the debate?
Just because we've got our Reading Expo next week, we've got Manchester at the end of November. I've got the awards as well coming up, so it's just whether I can balance it all. Because I didn't know we'd been entered. It came as such a shock.
Oh, well, I think Denise is going, so she might be able to pick it up in your absence.
Yeah.
So obviously talk me through the Thames Valley and Southwest, because Great British Awards have kind of evolved from the Thames Valley and Southwest. Have you kind of just made it bigger?
Not so much that. So what happened was obviously that we launched in Thames Valley and we launched in the Southwest. They're the two first shows that we did. We launched Windsor 12 years ago, and we also launched Swindon. So we really felt that we wanted to do the award ceremonies in those areas because we had such a strong following across the whole Southwest and Thames Valley. So they were always the kind of successful, and they kind of they just kind of covered themselves really. But we also do shows in Manchester, we do shows in Birmingham. So people kept saying, oh, can you do a Midlands Business Awards? And then we said, can you do a Northwest Business Awards? So I didn't want to be doing four award ceremonies.
No.
So the next step then was we need to be doing the Great British Business Awards. So that we can give people in Birmingham, people in Manchester, people in Liverpool the opportunity to enter one of our awards. But it saved us having to do more regional awards. We just couldn't. We just have got the resources to do that.
No, I know. Well, I mean, it's like organising a large wedding, isn't it? Every time when you do them.
It is, and and with the Great British Business Awards, I mean, we had nominations this year from Ireland, we had them from the Isle of Man, Isle of Wight, we had people come down from Glasgow, so it really was great to see. It really was Great Britain represented there, and that's great. But the other thing that we wanted to encourage the people that were in Thames Valley and Southwest, if they win, they're a finalist in the national awards. So.
That's a good idea. And so how long's the Great British Business Awards been running then?
2 years. So it's the second year this year it was, yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. And when are they open? Are they already open now?
So they are open now, yeah. You can go on the website, greatbritishbusinessawards.co.uk. And so yeah, they're all open. Also Thames Valley Awards are open. That's www.thamesvalleyawards.co.uk. And the Southwest Business Awards are also open as well.
So you have to be based in the Southwest for that one.
You've got to be based in the Southwest, yeah, for that one. So it could be.
I'm now based in the Southwest.
There you go.
I think I might be able to enter that now. Because I moved to sunny Somerset. Does that count?
Okay,
sunny
Somerset. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, we get quite a lot of nominations from Devon, Somerset, Cornwall.
Yes, that's where I am. I'll have to go and have a little look and see. So talk me through SME Today and a bit about that.
What happened was with SME Today, when we first launched the events back in 12 years ago, we started to become a distributor for some of the business publications. They asked us to be a distributor. So everybody came to our show to get a free copy. I'm not going to name the publications, but a free copy of these business publications. And you just thought, why aren't we doing this ourselves? We know the people that are contributing to it. We know the advertisers. We've got the distribution network, across the UK to put it out there. So that's how it came about. We thought we were actually going to do our own publication. So we originally thought about doing it in 2018. However, we did a very soft launch. But when COVID came and we didn't have the Expos, we really properly launched it then during the pandemic.
And that's a digital magazine.
It is digital. We initially it was physical. It's a physical magazine. However, to be more carbon friendly and to reduce our footprint, we went digital. However, if you do come to an expo, each one of our expos, there is a mini SME Today given out as a show guide.
So are you looking for people to send you, stories and adverts and things for that?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously we look for advertisers. So we have got people like we've got Virgin advertising at the moment. We've got BT. So we have got advertisers, but we're always looking for interesting stories. We're looking for people that want to add contributions, contributors. For example, you could be writing something about awards and then the best practice of entering awards. So yeah, we're always looking for good quality content and to keep pushing it out there, because it goes out every 2 weeks to, I think, 126,000 subscribers.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Yeah. So we always talk about the challenges that people face when they're running a business. So you're sort of 12 years in, it's quite a long time. So what would be your sort of pieces of advice to anyone starting out if they were listening to this podcast?
I think first of all, it would be to have a good business plan.
Mm,
And I know your business plan can obviously change and can adapt, but also really do your budgeting and costings and
mm,
understand your cost of sales. It took me 5 years, Debbie, to really understand how much a stand actually cost me.
mm,
And I know that sounds stupid to some people. When I actually broke down, what it actually cost me to sell that stand, and that was like factoring in your corporation liability, your
mm.
NI, the table hire, the venue hire, everything. What does that actual product cost me to sell or produce?
Yeah.
I realized I've been giving stands away and it was costing me to give those stands away.
Mm,
So it took me 5 years to realize the cost of sale and also the profit margin that we needed to operate as a business.
mm.
And I think that's really, really important, getting your costings and getting your figures right.
Yeah. And I think that's a thing that a lot of people don't really understand when they're setting out. They need to take all these costs into account, and they just kind of sort of blindly go into things without really putting that detail in. And I mean, a business plan, you need to refresh it every year, really,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
think
yeah,
about
yeah.
what's coming up and putting your targets together for next year. People are always surprised when I say, oh no, my venue's booked for next year and this is booked for
Yeah,
next year
yeah,
and that's done.
yeah,
And it's,
yeah.
because you can't run a business on the fly. Well, you can, but you probably won't get
Yeah,
very far.
yeah. I know the other thing as well. I think I always say to people, think about how committed I am to this business.
Mm,
Is this going to be a lifestyle business for me? Is this
mm,
looking to scale up? Do I still want to be running this business in 12 years' time? What do I want to do and what do I want to get out of this business? So I think that's what I always say to people as well. They really need to think about, what is the objective? Why am I doing this? Is it legacy?
mm,
What's the purpose? The business is hard.
mm,
It is hard. It's difficult. And you've really got to think about, why am I doing it? What's the big why, really? For us, it was about giving back and creating what we created in Cherishers, but also giving back to the communities as well. So really
mm.
to make a difference and trying to give integrity in business.
So what shows have you got coming up? Literally, like you've got Swindon's coming up, isn't it? Or Reading? Can't
Reading,
remember.
yeah.
Reading. And then what's for next year? What's on the
Oh, okay.
whew,
So we've got Reading next week, and that's the 12th of October. It's at Green Park. So we're really looking forward to that. Then we've got our Manchester Expo, that's on the 23rd of November, and that's at Man City Football Club. And then we've got
mm,
the and then we've got the Reading Thames Valley Business Awards on the 30th of November, Hilton Reading. And then we've got the Southwest Business Awards on the 7th of December at the Doubletree in Swindon. So that's this year.
wow.
Yeah, and then next year we've got all 7 expos are back. We cover shows in Cardiff, Bristol, Swindon, Reading, Manchester, Birmingham, and Twickenham as well. And then we've got the free business awards.
Oh my goodness. I don't know how you get any time
Yeah.
for yourself with that lot.
So it's a
What
big, big, big long journey. Yeah.
yeah, you've got lots going on. Well done on your nomination for Cherishers. That is incredible.
Yeah, no,
And
we're really pleased. I mean, it's been really hard, and Denise has been a great advocate and a great help to Cherishers, especially through the pandemic. And I think we all deserve an award for getting through the pandemic and just still being here, don't we?
we certainly do. And Denise is a great advocate for awards, and she's a great
Yeah,
advocate for
yeah,
you and your expos.
yeah.
So yeah, she's a wonderful, wonderful
And
woman.
again, I would really encourage anybody listening to the podcast, and I'm sure you already do, buy Denise's book. I mean,
Oh yeah, we've
everything.
got a whole episode on it. We've had a good old chibwag with her, and we always promote her book. It's an amazing
Yeah.
book, not because the foreword was written by me, of course, but no.
No, no, but seriously, and
My little
I've
story.
actually had people that have brought Denise, that have entered the awards, brought Denise's book, and they've re-entered because they realised what they did wrong with
Yeah.
their nomination. And so really, there is a systematic approach to entering awards and to filling out nominations, and that in itself, if you're very serious about entering awards,
Yeah.
that is the go-to, really.
Of course it is, absolutely. And her book is just amazing to actually just go through it step by step and get all the right information in there. It's called Winner, and it's by Denise O'Leary, and it is on Amazon, so you can
Yeah.
go and buy a copy. Well, thank you for joining me today. It's been absolutely amazing to catch up with you and find out more about your awards. And if you are listening to the podcast, we will make sure all the details are in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, we will put the links in there for you. So thank you for joining me
Thank
today,
you, Debbie.
Alex.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.